as if our problems could not get any more frustrating, any more worse, I guess you could say, with this Evo. So I got a call yesterday from the machine shop. The machine shop currently has the cylinder head from the Evo 8 project. If you guys are confused as to what's going on, if you've missed an episode or two, I went to put the 12-tooth crank trigger in, knew the car had a little bit of an oil leak. It ended up being the head gasket. So I pulled the head, dropped the head off at the machine shop to get resurfaced, and lo and behold, they called me yesterday and also sent me photos. I'll put some photos on the screen. There was sand blasting media left in our cylinder head. Now let's backtrack down memory lane. I personally sandblasted the head, so I'll admit that sandblasting a head isn't a foreign thing. Head shops do it all the time. They get it nice and cleaned up with something called glass media. Now, I wasn't comfortable myself cleaning out the cylinder head, so I dropped it off at a shop and trusted them to go through it, get all the sandblasting media out, and then I would bring it back to my shop and I would Cerakote the cylinder head. Now it turns out there was still blasting media remaining in the cylinder head after the machine shop cleaned it out. It's kind of all making sense now. Based off the photos that I put on the screen, media came through the oil galleys for the cam journals, took out quite a few of the cam journals, unfortunately. And if you guys remember back, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, a while ago, I had the motor out. Remember, I cut the filter, had some weird something going on in the oil filter. It could have been media, and I decided to pull the motor, check the bearings and all that. Do you remember that main bearing that looked like it had a piece of sand go through it? It did, because there was media left in the cylinder head. So it's all making sense. Now, unfortunately, instead of getting the cylinder head back today, it's going to be at least a week at minimum, and that's if they can even fix it. They're going to try to fix it, but he said no promises. We don't know if it's fixable. They're going to do their best. I'm headed to the shop. I'm going to disassemble the rest of the motor. I'm worried that more media made it into the bottom end. The only thing I'm worried about in the bottom end is, of course, the bearings. It's a much tighter tolerance on the bearings than it would be like the piston or wall clearance, stuff like that. So if the bearings check out fine, I'm confident the rest of the bottom end is fine. But yeah, that's where we're at, man. That's where we're at this morning. Obviously, it's very, very frustrating. I'm also a little bit weary of whether or not it was flat. So when you're rebuilding a motor, you always have the head milled, so the gasket surface is completely flat. And if that was not milled properly and it wasn't completely flat, that would explain why the head gasket was leaking. I'm wondering, I'm worried. I would say it's a 50-50 chance whether or not the head was flat or it was a bad head gasket. I guess we'll see. Enough babbling. Let's go to the shop, pop the pan, pop some bearings, and see what's up. Let's do the messiest part. Rotating this Jimmy over to get the pan off. See if I can accomplish this today without making too big of a mess. Okay, not so bad. All right. Really? Okay, pan is off. We need to pull the baffle, the pickup, and I'm gonna check all 4 rod bearings. If all those check out, we are in the clear. Number one. Number one is a little bit suspect looking. All of the rod bearings are out, and here's how they're looking. It appears some goodies definitely went through these bearings. A little bit sus. Not all that happy with those. I'm gonna pull the mains and see how these look. At this point, guys, it looks like it's just gonna be a full-on motor build again. There's a lot of stuff I don't like with those bearings, which is not good. Entire engine is torn back down. We got the pan, the crank, oil pump, all the pistons and rods, a bunch of random accessory stuff there. The block, here's the main bearings. Alrighty, I got the car loaded down with some parts. We got the crankshaft, block, main cap, oil pan, front oil case. Now all of these parts are going back to the machine shop. Pretty much everything to do with this oiling system on the car, oil cooler, oil pump, the block, the head, the crank, anything that has to do with the oiling system now either has to get replaced or hot tanked. Safe to say I am not enthused. Screw this car. Wait for it, it gets worse. So I dropped all of the parts off at the machine shop, and while I was there, they showed me my camshafts, which I brought back to the shop because my camshafts are useless. So if we take a look at that, that is some nice scoring. But not only that, well, that journal too. Okay. But for some reason, the lobes themselves are pitting apart. Now these are a set of HKS 272s. I'll be completely honest, I bought these camshafts used from a fellow Evo member who has upgraded, and I must not have inspected them very closely because I'm certain that pitting did not happen on our build. So just to add another set of camshafts to the list, I am going to, well I did, I already ordered a set and I upgraded a bit. I'm going from the 272s to a set of good old Brian Crowder. I love the BC parts, man. Set of BC 276s. They're the stage 3 BC cams. And yeah, that's all I had in stock, which is the perfect camshaft for this build. And it should give us a little bit more low idle as well, which is a plus. Thankfully, our head already has the BC springs and retainers installed into it, even though those are coming back out so the machine shop can go through the head and get it all clean. But we already have the springs and retainers. We may as well just slap a bigger camshaft in here and go from there. So in total, here's everything that we're replacing, which thankfully it isn't a whole lot. Crankshaft is good. That's gonna get repolished and cleaned. Block is good. That's gonna get rehoned and cleaned and redecked. Cylinder head, hopefully is good. Just needs to be cleaned properly this time. Milled. All new bearings, of course. We're doing the King P-Max coating on the King bearings. Really a big fan of those. So we're doing all new bearings, of course. New piston rings, the pistons and the rods. Thankfully, are all good to go. What else? New oil cooler. And then, of course, we're getting a ton of things flushed out and hot tanked. The oil pump, or the front case, you could say. The oil pan, and pretty much any other internal engine part. So boys and girls, I guess try to learn from my mistakes. I don't know what mistake I made other than maybe I should have just cleaned the head out myself. I don't really know at this point. But just know that a little bit of dirt and grit and debris in your cylinder head can cause you to rebuild your whole entire engine. Imagine that. We all know it, but we just don't expect it to happen to us. That's how it feels right now. Was not expecting to be doing this. On another note, the Evo 8 may as well come off the lift because it's going to be a while till this thing gets its motor. So I'm going to put the subframe back in the car. Thankfully, that is super, super easy to do. Reconnect the lower control arms, get some wheels back on it so this thing can roll around and not take up our lift space. So let's do that. Sad. Motor's supposed to be going back in today. I figured before it goes in the car, let's pressure wash all of this antifreeze off. I'm currently finding it very, very, very difficult to stay motivated on this project. Which, of course, I mean, this is the third time this motor's been out? No, second time, third time, I don't know. I haven't exactly decided. I'm either gonna be taking a complete break from this car until we get all the parts in, or just taking a break from motor stuff and doing the polish. The full wet sand and polish on this whole entire car. That's like a 3-day thing. And it's gonna look absolutely beautiful, all finished up. I'm very excited for that. So being that we have a few days of downtime, I'm gonna go ahead and take the opportunity to get everything cleaned up. Now, of course, it's not all that dirty. It's just either oily or has coolant on it or antifreeze on it, or maybe a little bit of dirt. So for the most part, it should just be a quick rinse down with the pressure washer and should be good to get cleaned up. At least the parts over here should be very easy. Now the motor parts, all of the goodies on this table, these are gonna need either brake cleaner or maybe soaked in some gasoline to get the oil or RTV off. And yeah, it's pretty much starting from scratch. So let's tackle this table first. Now, my personal favorite way of getting internal engine parts cleaned initially is gasoline. This breaks up all of the oil off of them. And then, of course, after the gasoline soak, wipe them down or clean them up with brake cleaner, and you're good to go. And it really helps with breaking off the RTV sealant. This 3-bond here, soak it in gasoline, man, it comes right off. If you're still buying brake clean by the can and you have not bought a 5-gallon drum of it yet, you're wasting money. I just got this from the local O'Reilly's, local auto parts store. And then if you order this nice little metal tub online, you save so much freaking money, I'm telling you. Building a motor, you go through a lot of brake cleaner. Building cars in general, you go through a lot of brake cleaner. Top that sucker off, screw on the lid with the air valve in it, tighten her up, and pressurize your can with some air. Like that. Let's do some quick math. I'm curious. If you buy a brake cleaner by the can, it comes out to 42 cents an ounce. If you buy it by the drum, the 5-gallon drum, 5 gallons is what, 640 ounces? 640 ounces, $109. 17 cents an ounce. What was the other? 42 cents. That is like 2.5 times cheaper. Buy it by the drum, boys. I'm telling you, it's gonna save you a lot of money in the long run, and you don't have to run to the auto parts store every day. Literally every day. For example, our crank trigger. Pull it out of the gasoline. Give it a little rinse with brake clean. Set it on the towel. If there's one little piece of sand in here, I won't be happy. If I'm being honest, I was a little bit worried about these JDC anodized parts, but clearly they hold up just fine with the brake cleaner and the gasoline, which is good. Now, thankfully, all this kind of stuff here just needs a quick little hose down. Just like that, we have a ton of clean parts ready to go back on the motor as soon as we get the block, the crank, the head, get our cams in the mail, get our bearings in the mail. This thing can go back together. And of course, over here we have all the other goodies. Bam, ready to party. Sucks this thing had to come apart. I wish I could say it all could have been avoided. I don't really see how this could have been avoided. It is what it is. Let's just leave it at that. I know the general population does not care, but all my Evo fanboys and Evo owners, look what arrived. Let me show you how it is installed in the car. Glove box out. And now right here is where the factory block off would be. This one's already cut out, thankfully. Whoever cut it didn't do the cleanest job, but I do know there is an imprint where you need to cut. That goes there. You'll need two kind of like self-tapping or self-drilling screws. One screw goes on the bottom, right down there, and driver's side top. Why Mitsubishi didn't install that in the first place is beyond me. Now, with that installed, this will, or should remain working for the life of this car. Of course, I'm not happy whatsoever about this situation, but we'll get her taken care of and move on with life. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you boys in the next episode. Goodbye.